How have you been able to work out? I mean, I assume at your home you have equipment and all that. You've been able to work out okay?
Yeah, actually, one of my best friends and neighbor, Vic Kunsuni, has a gym in his basement.
Nice.
And so basically his household I've considered as an extension of mine because quite early on we all got tested and we were quite strict about it. So
that's good.
Yeah, I go and work out with him. In fact, he just texted me 10 minutes ago saying, "Hey, I'm going to work out. Do you want to work out?" I'm like, timing's not good. So
Thank
tomorrow.
you.
But yeah, that has helped keep me sane.
Oh yeah. It was really, oh my goodness, it was so difficult. Well, I mean, originally our place in Alpha Land, we had the gym was open, we had a swimming pool, I had my indoor cycling, and then they shut down everything, and I was just like a fish out of water. It was really, really bad for my mental health.
It's body weight everything.
Yeah, which is nothing like for a triathlete. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, all right, 1 second, let me just okay, all right, I think we're ready.
I think we're live on Facebook.
All right, here we go. A beautiful afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world catching us. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is El Ada. I'm the chairwoman of Trifactor Engage. Here, this platform has been inspired by the community and for the community. So we come together as one community support system, bringing you not only some inspiring stories from our community members, but also connecting you to our global network of health professionals. So we come out of this stronger, but we also come out of this in expert fashion. So today we are going to introduce you to a television host. You may have seen him, you probably will have. He's also an ambassador for WWF, a dear friend of mine, and a very, very active gentleman. You've seen him in the water, out of the water, on motorcycles, traveling all around the world. But today he's going to talk to you about his personal journey with mindfulness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Marc Nelson. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, good evening to you, El, and to all of the wonderful people watching. Wow, what an introduction! Thank you.
You're welcome. You deserve it. Give us a little background of what you're up to these days.
Well, I'm normally a travel show host, which is something that I haven't been able to do a whole lot of in the last 6 months or so. So I've been doing stuff here at home. I've got a couple of podcasts, one I do on my own every Tuesday night called Question Mark, where people just ask me anything. And that was started more out of a little bit of boredom and a little bit of curiosity. People send me questions all the time. So I was like, you know what, I'll just make a podcast and answer everything. And then another one that we do with a mutual friend of ours, Wilson Fernandez, Marc and Rove, We Need New Friends. We're starting season 2 of that on Facebook Live next week, every Wednesday. Apart from that, streaming online hostings, which is completely bizarre. And then occasionally doing a couple of live ones, which are then obviously streamed out to an online audience. Apart from that, riding motorbikes, hanging out with my cats, spending a lot of time on FaceTime and Zoom and everything, catching up with friends and family. And hoping that everyone is staying home and staying safe and doing all the right thing.
So Marc, you mentioned, riding bikes and hanging out with your cats, talking to your friends, and being active, of course. What do you think during this lockdown struck you most? Everyone's going through their own, kind of like, well, it's a self-awakening. I think it is the age of awakening. We spend so much time being busy, doing. Sometimes we forget how to be. And in the stillness, sometimes things tend to pop up that we may not have addressed, things we may have swept under the rug. So could you enlighten us a little bit about a personal thing for you that you tackled with during the lockdown and how you've been able to come through the other side?
Well, I think off the bat, I've been very fortunate in comparison to a lot of the other people that have had to deal with the lockdown. I'm very fortunate that I have space here at home. I have savings, so the financial issues weren't as much of a thing perhaps for me. But I think it's something called skin hunger, which is basically not having any physical contact with another person. I mean, it's great being able to do all these online calls and chats and Zooms and everything. But the actual physical contact of, just giving someone a hug or shaking their hand or something is something that I haven't done in months. And that's a real thing. So it can get to you a little bit. But I found that one of the benefits of being on lockdown is that I have the luxury of time, something that, much like yourself, I didn't have a lot of leading up to the lockdown. It was always like on the go. It's like, traveling from this plane to that plane to this place to that place. And just
like the schedule was
barely
running you.
Yeah, the schedule was really running me. But now I've got time. I've been here at home. I've appreciated my home so much more. I really, really love it. But the other great thing is that I've been able to dedicate a little bit more time to taking care of, I guess, my mindfulness journey. And I've always wanted to try and get into meditation. And like a lot of other people out there, I suffer from monkey mind, which is my mind is always, constantly thinking, going, here, there, everywhere. And if someone asks me, like if my girlfriend asks me, oh, what are you thinking about? I'm like, you don't really want me to answer that, really. And on the odd occasion that I do, it's like, okay, I'm thinking about this, which leads to that, which leads to this, which leads to that, which leads to this, and 5 minutes later, and she's just like, whoa. It's like, yeah, that's what's going through my mind.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to sit still and meditate and just focus on something like breathing or a mantra or just, chilling out was a big deal and something I had so much trouble with. So it's like, okay, I know meditation is good for you. I know, all the successful people do it. I know it's supposed to be good for mental health, for just, clearing your mind, for giving your mind a rest, because we all know that we need to give our body a rest. Like, yeah, you're a triathlete, you train hard and everything, but it also needs to rest, to recover. Well, the mind is the same thing. It's always on the go, it's always thinking, and especially if you have monkey mind, it's always charging ahead. And the only time it really gets to rest is when you sleep. And even then, sometimes you're lying in bed, I need to sleep, and oh wait, I've got to remember that I have to get up at this time, and I need to call that person, and maybe I should make a note, and yeah. Oh, I need to make sure I pack that for my trip tomorrow. And it's
a terrible condition that we all, and I'm glad that that you're sharing it. I think it's in the culturescape, we like to keep our clean feed. We like to keep our feed clean. So,
yeah.
So we like to be seen how we ought to be seen. But the truth is, this thing between our ears was not designed to make us happy. It was designed to make us survive. We were designed to survive from lions and tigers and bears, but fast forward however many thousands of years, the lions and tigers and bears aren't there anymore. And what's been replaced to stimulate that, stressful fight or flight response are all these different notifications, all of these expectations that are actually self-made. And it's caging the monkey mind. I'm not sure if you listen to Tim Ferriss, but he talks about caging that monkey mind. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that, just so people actually know that it's not just one person, it's not just you, it's not just him, but we aren't actually our thoughts, and we're not what we feel, we're not what we think all the time. And it is a common thing. I'm like that as well, where what is usually in our minds is not the present moment. It's the giant list of to-dos. And so tell me a little bit about this to-do list. And when you experience this monkey mind, is it just being busy, or does it take a toll on your own, image of yourself? Does it shape the story through which you view yourself and, the people around you and the scenarios that happen?
Yeah, I think it can. Sometimes I believe that when you take on a lot of different things, and you and I have non-traditional jobs, and in doing so, it's like, I think that if someone has a regular 9 to 5 and they're stuck in an office and they've always got that one thing to think about, to stress about, so to speak, it's that one subject matter. But we do a lot of different things. So I feel like we take on responsibilities on a lot of different subject matters. And so you've got to remember, okay, must remember that I need to do this. Okay, I need to sign that contract. I need to Zoom call this person. I need to pack that. I need to send this. I need to, have this delivered. I need to order that. I need to, book this. And these are all things that are constantly going. And it can put extra pressure and stress on you because I know that me, if I've got too many things to do and not enough time to do it, I'm like, whoa, I can get a little bit flustered. So I need to be able to simplify and focus down. Yeah. But what has helped me with that is basically ignoring everything first thing in the morning. And by everything, it's like, it's so tempting to pick up that phone first thing in the morning and just check your messages. But as soon as you do that, you're going to go straight down the rabbit hole.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. A couple of times recently I have done, I'm like, oh, I'll just check because I'm expecting this message. And like an hour later, I'm like, oh crap, I'm still in bed and I haven't let go of the phone. So what I do now is I get up, I don't look at the phone. I'll go out to my balcony, sit in my hammock, and I'll do my meditation first thing in the morning without looking at anything. Do my meditation, then write down my notes, my 5 things that I'm thankful for. And only after that, and once I've been settled, and it doesn't take long, it's like maybe 20 minutes to do that. And that has already put me in a calmer state of mind, more present and able to deal with things now. And I get up fairly early now, so it's the same as, okay, if I used to wake up at 9 o'clock and now I'm waking up at 6 or 7, then I get everything done and I've still got like at least an extra hour before I would normally answer emails or messages or anything. So that for me helps a lot.
I think I'm glad you mentioned that as a morning routine. I think a lot of the times we as a population are not able to access our biological peak state where, we're thinking our best, we're feeling our best, when everything is clear. It's because the first 10 minutes that we spend when we wake up, or the last 10 minutes before we go to bed, those are our most vulnerable or susceptible states. That's when we're going in and out of our slower brain waves from, theta to beta to alpha. And so all of a sudden, if the first thing that we give our attention to is a notification or a demand or a comparison or, something that basically you're giving away the momentum of your day. And so it's great. People say, oh, I don't have time. I have work to do. Exactly. We've got work to do. How in the world are we supposed to, give the fullness of our ability if we've given away right from the get-go the lens through which we experience everything? And so like what you said, starting the day through the lens or the perspective by claiming it, not just letting it happen on its own with the news or your phone, but saying, you know what, I'm going to choose to start my day, like what you said, with gratitude. I think that's, because then you start from a place of abundance. If you start with gratitude, you start talking about, your focus is already directed on what you have, rather than going on your phone on what I need to do. It's always from a place of need versus a place of abundance. So how long does that, okay, actually just walk me through, because sometimes people have a bit of an aversion to mindfulness because they're like, how in the world am I supposed to sit down and not think of anything? And my mom, I try to get my mother to do mindfulness and meditation. She's like, I can't do it because it's so frustrating because I suck at it. And that's the thing, is like, we always want to do well in things. And if we're not good at it, we don't like to do it. So how can you walk through someone who's never done it and might be a little overwhelming, especially when they cannot quiet or cage, like you said, that monkey mind?
Okay, I used to be exactly like your mom. It's like, oh my God, I know you need to meditate, but I can't do it. I suck at this. Yeah. It's so hard. I can't focus. My mind's, always, like going here, there, and everywhere. What worked for me, and what I think works for a lot of people, is recognizing that there are different types of meditation, and that no one type is good for all people. So it's finding the one that works for you. So the whole like, just Zen, be quiet and like make your mind go blank. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. The chanting one, yeah, helped a little bit because it kind of distracts your mind. But I find that guided meditations are good, but not all guided meditations. I downloaded a bunch of like the meditation apps, like Calm and I forgot, all of those.
Yeah.
And I listened to them. I was like, yeah, okay, but it was a chore. It was always like, okay, I know I should meditate. All right, fine, I'll do one now. And then just randomly, I was searching on YouTube, and I was like, okay, guided meditation. All right, I'll try 15 minutes. Perfect. I'll try that. And I tried it, and it just clicked. It was a girl, or they're a young couple. They call themselves Boho Beautiful. They do yoga and everything. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I know Boho Beautiful.
Well,
what is it about Boho Beautiful that makes it different, or at least how does it resonate to you specifically?
It resonates to me. Number one, it's her voice. Number two, it is the background music. I'm sure that the video of the location is awesome, but I've never actually seen it. I only see like the first couple of seconds, and then my eyes are closed and I'm focusing on the meditation. But just the rhythm and tone of her voice, and also the background music is very relaxing. And it's not so much that you're all constantly trying to like sort of keep up, or that it's distracting. Her voice is distracting. But it brings you into the right state. And then it sort of gives you a mantra, a very simple mantra, and then sort of lets you go. After like another like 5 or 10 minutes, and then they slowly bring you back out. And quite often, when it comes to the end and they're bringing you back out, they give you the option of, okay, if you want, you can stay in this place a little bit longer. And I generally do, because I'm just in such a nice, relaxed, calm state by that point. And of course, the whole focusing on the breathing, which is, I think, generally fairly universal amongst meditations. But the way they do it, it just worked. And ever since then, I've been able to meditate, quite easily. And also finding the right place.
Yeah.
I meditate in my hammock. It's the best. Meditate in the hammock.
Your brain ends up associating a certain place with a certain state, and so it's easy for you to get there. You said something really well. First of all, that a lot of times what drives people away from being consistent with the practice is the fact that it's difficult or it's a chore, and that's one of those things that I'm glad that you said. Choose something that works for you, and it means at the end of the day, like, regardless of what we're doing, if we're not enjoying it, there is zero way that our bodies or brains will make it a habit, because we need that sense of reward. There's no way we're going to be consistent. And why are we wasting our time doing something that we don't enjoy? And so there's always a way to find a way to make it so that it's personal, whether it's, being able to listen to a specific voice that resonates with you, or certain mindfulness and meditations. I know what's easiest for me to recommend to some of my clients is a meditation that actually makes you think about something. So you're not just thinking about the breath, nothing. Which is the breath to people like, okay, inhale and exhale. That's it. What else do I think about? But, there's some great meditations out there where they think about gratitude, or you access a grateful memory. And you get into that state, like you said. So then when you get into this state, first of all, what does this state feel like to you? As opposed to when you wake up in the morning, because we usually get that, that surge of adrenaline, which is normal. It's normal for the body to give a little bit of cortisol to wake us up. It's engineered to make us alert. So how do you compare that wakeful state right in the beginning to when you're able to have a meditation and it brings you to this, what we call the peak state?
Well, it's a state of calm and relaxation. Sometimes I am able to, I guess, I have a very hard time accessing my well, in yogic terms, my third eye chakra. But I do try and focus just on that general area, and it's generally blank, or there might be some, some random shapes floating in and out of there. But I do find it quite relaxing. And it's funny what you mentioned, like what you feel and everything when you're in that. When I do want to bring myself to a place of calm on my own without having a guided meditation, there is an exercise that I learned through NLP meta coaching called the Circle of Excellence. And it's very easy for me to then access my calm, happy place, which in my case happens to be this place in Cabo, Mexico that I visited with my girlfriend. We visited some friends there, and they just, the bungalow that we stayed in was just calm, perfect, beautiful, chill, relaxed. We had no pressures, no stresses, no, like, oh, we have to get up and do this. It was just like, hey,
just be,
stay, chill, sleep in, do whatever you want, and being able to access that feeling, like not just seeing it in your mind, but also like feeling it and hearing it and all of that, and you truly fully immerse into it. And it's a great way of just changing your mood or your vibe, like
tapping into a memory.
Tapping into that memory, but yeah, just fully immersing yourself into it. And yeah, I find that really good.
Excellent. And so, so when you talk about NLP, neuro-linguistics programming, can you just explain a little bit to our viewers what that is and how they can actually, if you have like a certain guideline for that specific exercise that they can go through so that they can practice it at home as well? Is it a specific memory that they need to access? Is there, you have any tips as far as which ones and how specific, what are the cues that we need to be looking for in order to create that full immersion? Yeah,
well, just a quick background on NLP. Neuro-linguistic programming is, it's basically learning about the combination of different things and how they affect each other, whether it be your physical, your emotional, your mental. It is, and actually the language that you use, everything is interconnected and has an effect on each other. So your physical feelings or the things you say actually have a mental and emotional effect on you and vice versa. And it's being able to tap into each and every one of them and influence them to have a positive influence on the others. So for instance, with the Circle of Excellence, it's tapping into not just, because normally when you say, oh, picture this. And so people picture that, but then you also have to realize that some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic. And by that, I mean, if you describe something visually to someone, there's some people like, oh yes, I see it. But others like, yeah, I don't get it. Maybe they're more auditory. So you need to, what would it sound like? Or what would it feel like if they're kinesthetic? So in order to do a Circle of Excellence properly, you need to make sure that people are accessing each and every one of these, filters. And so when they're putting themselves into that place, that state, and it's called a Circle of Excellence because you actually have people imagine a circle on the floor and you make sure that they imagine it fully. So it's not just, okay, can you see it? Okay, what color is it? What does it feel like? What's its texture? Is it hot? Is it cold? What's it made of? All of these things. How big is it? And once they've fully formed that in your mind, and then you get them to access that memory of a state that they desire or a state that they've experienced, whether it be calm, whether it be focus, and have them take that. It's not so much a picture, but an experience, and put it into that circle. So again, it's just like you did with the circle. You're asking them, okay, what do you see? Look around. What do you see? What do you feel? Is it, like hot, cold? Is there a breeze? What do you hear? Are there voices? Are there rustles in the trees? Can you hear, water? The temperature, everything, even like the taste. Can you, like, is there any specific taste in the air?
You're basically creating the reality in your mind.
You are creating, imagine it like a computer program, and you've got to input all of these senses in there. And once it's in there and fully formed, then you ask people to step into the circle and fully immerse themselves in it until they can feel it. And, if you need to, you can ramp up, okay, would it feel a bit stronger or more real if it was a little bit brighter, or if it was a little bit louder, or whatever it be. And you can do this in a matter of like 5 minutes, but that place is available to them at any time after that. Anytime they need to, like, okay, I'm going to walk into a business meeting. I need to be in my, on my game face on, focus. Yeah. Okay, let me step into my focus circle. And then they can just access that feeling, because by accessing the feeling of being there, then it actually kind of tricks the mental state to being, okay, I am there. I am back in that focused state and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm glad you mentioned that. Basically, in preparation for a meeting, in preparation for a performance, or before going on stage, because this is something I've always had stage fright ever since I was a little girl, whether it's in front of 2 people or 20,000.
Rubbish.
Always. And a lot of the times, obviously we know that stress is bad for us, but it actually completely, like, it completely buffers our actual abilities to think. We doubt ourselves when that prefrontal cortex shuts down. All of a sudden, where we usually perform 100% in the shower, on stage maybe it's like 85%. But what mindfulness and meditation, as you've just said, and I mean how it speaks to me as well, is it allows us to access that state, whichever state that may be. And it brings us into the present. And what we're learning now is when we're actually into the present, then people actually see these. If you look at different brain scans of people who come in and out of meditation, the white matter, like your corpus callosum, actually increases in size, which means that white matter is able to connect the left brain, the analytical, and the right brain, be the creative. So we're actually getting smarter and we're accessing more of ourselves the more present we are. And so, Marc, not only obviously you say this is able to allow you to tap into that game face, allow you to tap into the fullness of who you are when you're in that present. What about, obviously, when there's stillness? Certain things tend to pop up when you're in that stillness. Maybe a thought, maybe an unaddressed thought, or an emotion. How do you deal with that? So obviously we get distracted a lot, not just by our to-do lists, but certain lingering feelings that we usually our tendency is to cover it up with more doing, or to pretend that it's not there. So when you're in that mindful state and something that's uncomfortable pops up, what do you do to deal with it?
Well, I used to like just try and ignore it, much like everyone else. But then there's been a couple of journeys or experience that I've been through that made me understand that it's best really to address it. And if quite often we have little things that pop up that bug us, and they're always there. But if we keep ignoring it, then they'll just keep popping up. And so sometimes you do have to address it head on, or think it through. Find the time to sit down, settle, and say, okay, is this, what is the issue? What is the root of the issue? Because quite often we don't recognize what the true root of the issue is.
Could you give an example?
Okay, maybe you have.
It doesn't have to be a real example.
No, but say you've got, maybe you have a problem with someone. You're like, okay, I don't like this person because they did this or they said that. But if you examine it more deeply, you might recognize it's like, okay, but why don't I like it when they do that?
Yeah.
And it might be because it's a reflection of something you don't like about yourself that you do. And quite often the things that we like the least about other people are the things that we are so terrified of being ourselves. And so if you maybe are quick to anger at some point, and then someone gets angry at you for no big reason, it affects you a lot. And you're like, why do they get, oh man, I hate them. Oh yeah, they really don't. And then you recognize, like, hang on a minute. What is it about this experience that bothers me so much? And then you recognize, maybe it's a reflection of yourself, or maybe you got upset about something and then you realized that it was actually because you were stressed about something else, and that was just an outlet. So it's this constant need to self-analyze and, in a way, self-coach yourself. And I find what helps a lot is being able to take yourself out of yourself and be a third person. The fly on the wall. And this is something else that they teach in NLP, and something that I experienced in a pseudo reality during an ayahuasca journey, of literally being a third person, watching myself give my other self some great advice that helped me deal with an issue that had been an issue with my father for decades, and it cleared it up like that, just by being able to step back and understand the situation analytically, without necessarily from that first person of like, oh yeah, I feel hurt, I feel wounded, I feel this. When you take the ego out of it a little bit, I think that you can realize that none of us are innocent. Okay, and quite often, if we're upset with someone, but we're also guilty of something in that situation. So I guess that's what I mean by, addressing it head on, and you can often realize a lot about yourself and become a better person. And then it's another whole tangent I could go down regarding, forgiveness and everything, and how it's beneficial, not just for the person you're forgiving, but even more so for yourself.
It's interesting what you said. That's my phone. 1 second.
That's all right.
It's interesting what you said about that fly on the wall, and how when you're able to see it analytically rather than being in that first person. Because when we're in the first person, it's an emotional reaction to an emotional memory that we usually pick up when we're children, misunderstanding things. So essentially, we're running off of a system that an 8-year-old wrote. And so it's often, with mindfulness, as you mentioned, when it allows us to be aware when they pop up, but it's also learning to just sit and be with what is without necessarily engaging in it. And oftentimes fighting our natural emotional impulse to either rationalize, cover it up, ignore, or rise above. We think we're rising above. Yeah. But actually, the most courageous thing, as you said, that we can do is to try and understand it, and try and, if anything, observe it like with a gentle curiosity, and like that third person. And because oftentimes it is exactly those moments of discomfort, or what we think is actually harmful to us, that is the gateway to, liberating us from those strongholds, like you said, with your journey with your dad.
Yeah.
And so for those who may be trying mindfulness for the first time, and we all have those, that negative self-talk. We all have it. We all have it, regardless of how well we've done. We all have that inner critic, the annoying roommate, which is our, our negative self-belief. And usually, yes, at the end of, if you go down the rabbit hole, that negative self-belief or that limiting belief is usually always the belief that we are insufficient or that we are not enough. So how would you explain that to someone who's completely new to it? Someone, especially someone who's completely guarded by walls of pride, or, if the family member may have done something wrong to them, but instead they say, no, I'm being strong. I'm being strong by covering it up. I don't need this. I'm comfortable and confident in myself. How do you explain that cycle and how you get from point A to point B?
I think it's you need a certain amount of self-realization and not be dependent on other people's opinions for your own self-worth. And this is something it is. It's extremely hard. I mean, especially nowadays, everyone is, so concerned with, how many likes and everything. It's very, very difficult. But we were all born. We all came from a mother and a father. We all started life on Earth, kicking and screaming. And some have been fortunate, some have been less fortunate. A lot of it has to do with the circumstances that we were born into, others perhaps by the way we were raised, but it shouldn't diminish your value as a person. And I think that as long as you go through life, no matter what your belief system is, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your occupation is, your education is, if you can manage to go through life generally just trying to be a good person, and by good person it means don't cause harm to other people, then you have value. You have value as a good person. You will be able to ask the people close to you, and they will tell you that you have value to them. So often people are so concerned with the opinions of people that don't matter. I mean, what's that saying? Those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind.
Yeah.
Right? And it's so true. I've spoken to someone that I did a coaching class with, and he had very, very low self-esteem. And he thought, oh, I'm useless, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, no, look at all of the things that you've managed to accomplish. Are you a good father? Are you a good husband? Like, faith? Yes. Okay. These are all positive things. And just because other people tell you different things, or they don't give you the encouragement that perhaps you want, you are your own worst critic, as you mentioned. We are all our own worst critic. And so often our minds are so talented at coming up with opinions, other people's opinions that we project onto ourselves that may not even exist.
And if they turn out to be true because we create it in the mind.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, if someone gives you a funny look, and you're like, okay, why are they looking at me? Is there something wrong with me? Am I not looking my best? Did I say something funny or whatever? They could have been lost in thought and happened to be looking in your direction, honestly.
Yeah.
And even if they did think something less of you, why should it bother you? It's not bothering them. So why let it affect you? The person that you should be concerned about, whose opinion really matters, is your own. You, as much as you cheer on your friends and your loved ones, and you tell them how much you love them and how great they are, and you think the world of them, well, you should be your own loved one as well. So you need to cheer yourself on every now and again as well.
Yeah. That's I like what you said like that. It's basically creating your affirmations for yourself. It's a beautiful thing, and it's, Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, says there's nothing greater that they've seen out of any field test they've done than one person doing a kindness to another. But it's so difficult for us to do that kindness to ourselves. I do this.
Yes.
I have this exercise, and it was my personal, self-worth journey as well. At the beginning of my journey, I couldn't think of anything good that I could say to myself. I had to borrow the words of a friend. And even then, when I said it in the mirror, I am kind, I am talented, I'm good-hearted, I'm doing great. It's like there was so much resistance coming out of my mouth. And we have this, a lot of the times, we wouldn't say to an enemy the words that we sometimes say to ourselves. And the danger is when we just say, oh, well, you know what, that's just how it is. I can't control it. It just happens. And like you said, it is us who allow a certain idea to affect a story. Yes, there are certain thoughts that are involuntary. Mm-hmm. And you can't erase those thoughts. You can't. People who say, oh, just don't think of negative thoughts, erase negative thoughts, that's impossible. It's like saying, oh, if you smile, it'll give you happy hormones. Or if you laugh, it'll give you happy hormones and you'll just laugh. It's still there. And sometimes, the best way to address it isn't trying to erase it or say it's not true, but instead to replace it or accompany it with an affirmation, accompany it with something that is real. And the
Mm-hmm.
more that, like you said, if you have a mantra, an affirmation about yourself, say, what am I grateful for about myself? You know, that's the hardest thing that I sometimes ask some of my clients, like, write a gratitude letter to yourself. What are you grateful for that you've done or that you are? What have you given to other people? And what I've found is, like, the more that we actually meditate on those words, meditate meaning just basically try to continue to understand them, the fullness of what they are, and allow them to really sink in, not only in our minds, but our bodies, our subconscious. And eventually, because we're meditating on it, that's where our focus is. It's not that we erase the negative thought. It's just that our focus is there. And so it illuminates the big picture, which overshadows, you know, the doubt. So how does one create these positive affirmations when most of what pops up is negative?
Well, this is one of the reasons why I take that extra few minutes after doing my morning meditation to write down 5 things that I'm grateful for, or 5 things that I'm thankful for. Because, like you said, it's, you know, you have to stop and literally think about it, because it's so easy to get distracted by, okay, negative this, negative that. But if you stop for a minute and you think, okay, what am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful for, you know, like I have a loving family. Okay, write that down. I'm grateful for, you know, my partner. Okay, write that down. I'm grateful for my health. Write that down. I mean, it could be, you know, the biggest things in the world, could be the smallest things in the world. But by doing that first thing in the morning, you're already kickstarting your day in a positive light. And it also reminds you that for every bad thing that you think is happening in your life, there are multiple good things that happen. And it's such a shame that just like, you know, with social media, I mean, if you read all your comments and you could have, you know, 50 great complimentary comments, and you just have one bad comment,
I don't know what
that's
you're talking
the one
about.
that is the one you're going to remember. And it's true. It's another thing we learned in coaching. For every bad thing that you say in a relationship, you need to say 10 good things to try and make up for it. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame that negativity is so powerful. So you need, I mean, we all need that kickstart in the morning of positivity. Yeah. So start on the up and up and try and keep it there.
Yeah. There's a beautiful, well, it's kind of like a metaphor that one of my coaches told me a long time. It was actually my dad's. And he says that, you know, if you look at a power plant doesn't look anywhere else for energy. It generates it itself. And so each and every one of us as individuals has the ability to generate joy, to generate gratitude, to generate love. We don't have to wait for it in a circumstance, in what happens at work, or I had a good day because this happened, or this person said this, or this person said that. We have, you know, human beings have a remarkable talent that we've completely undersold ourselves on. And like what you said, just by sitting down and accessing a memory of you and your beloved girlfriend, all of a sudden there's joy. You didn't, you know, nothing, you didn't charge yourself or hook yourself up to the wall. You didn't take some magic happy pill. That was just there. You have access to that. Same thing when we wake up in the morning and we list things that we're grateful for. It's an intentional act. And it's at the end of the day, especially during, you know, COVID, when there's enough adversity, there's enough challenges, there's enough going on around us. We cannot leave our joy to chance or to circumstance or in the hands of others. But like you said, to be intentional about it by starting your day, and not just starting your day. I have these things called my bumper rails of intentional living, or my bumper rails of happiness. You know, when you're bowling and you have the bumper rails to make sure. Well, you may not know that because you're probably good at bowling, but I am renowned for sucking very, very hard in the bowling alley. And so we need to have that for our joy. We can't, we need to have certain systems and strategies in place to safeguard that lens, because as you said, for every one thing of good, there's usually what we notice all the bad. So what do? Just keep adding more good throughout the day as much as we can. And for
Yep.
me, that's been the game changer for me, is that happiness is not, an end game. It's not a destination. It's a verb. It's a verb that we have well, we're the noun that is operating that verb. And so when you practice mindfulness in the morning, how do you take that off of, I mean, people like to do it off of the mat, but how do you take it off the hammock?
Well, I think that like throughout the day, being self-aware, and mindfulness does help very much with your self-awareness, because it's a time when you focus everything inwards and on yourself. And I find that the more that you do it, the more aware you are of your thoughts, your speech, and your actions throughout the day. So sometimes you can catch yourself before doing or saying something negative. Because for me, when you're more mindful of yourself, it goes hand in hand with wanting to be a better version of yourself. And that's a kick that I've been on for the past few years. And when you do that, then you also realize that, okay, I don't want to do or say anything that I might regret later. Yeah. It's a lot of retrospective thinking of like, okay, in my life, what have I done? Like, oh, I remember that one instance. Oh, I wish I hadn't said that, or I wish I hadn't done that. And the fact that it still bugs you further on makes you realize, you're like, okay, so that one small thing that I said to that person, which may have been hurtful, still resonates with me now. So I'm going to be a lot more careful with my words moving forward. Or it's like, oh, that person pissed me off. I want to, that wait, hang on.
Just being reckless.
Yeah, it's being reckless. And that might also be a sign of maturity, but I feel that mindfulness and self-awareness has a lot to do with it as well. And I've found that moving forward, being more mindful of those sorts of things, thoughts and actions, particularly how they affect other people, has made me a lot more careful. And in doing so, at the end of the day, a lot less stressed out.
Yeah. I think that's probably, during this time, especially, this is usually the time where we don't have our distractions. We don't have our usual coping strategies, the usual places that we go to that put us in a state of mind that keep us occupied from whatever we're dealing with. And so in this time when there's a big shining mirror staring us in the face and we are literally locked in and we have no choice but to face that mirror. So what can you say to some of the people who are listening that are afraid to look at the mirror and are afraid to sit with whatever it is that they see?
I think that you can be a lot braver than you might think. And it is something that needs to be done, sadly, sooner rather than later. It's like all things painful. The faster that you do it, then the less the pain. Whether it be like a breakup, whether it be ripping off a bandage, any of these things, like the sooner you can address it, then the sooner you'll be able to live a better life beyond it. So don't be afraid to sit with it. It's not going to kill you. There are tools that can help you. Whether it be, if you need to talk to someone about it, whether it be a loved one, whether it be a counselor, whether it be, a coach or whatever, then if it's that sort of an issue, then absolutely, because quite often these people will have tools that can help you get through certain issues or just, I guess, have them settle in your mind. And I talked earlier about forgiveness. Well, forgiveness also has to work for yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to have the ability to forgive yourself. But talking about forgiveness for other people, I remember an example of a friend of mine, and he had a really bad day, and then he was just bitching and complaining about the way that I think someone at the coffee shop, like spoke to him or treated him, and it bugged him that afternoon. Okay, it bugged him later that night. 2 days later, he was still talking about it, and I was like, dude, this really got you. He's like, yeah, she should have said, she really disrespected me. I was like, who is it affecting? You just need to you need to forgive her, forgive that situation, and let it go, because it is affecting you badly.
She probably doesn't.
But she's forgot. It's ancient history to her. So no matter how much you're stressing about it, it's not affecting her. It's only affecting you. Yeah. So the longer that you hang on to those sorts of things and feelings, the worse it is for you. And again, like you said, you have the control. We have the power to decide what affects us in what way. If we dwell on the negative, then we're just going to be focusing all of our energy on the negative.
Yeah.
And that if you dwell on the positive, then that uplifts us, right? There was another saying. It's about which wolf is stronger, like the good or the bad. It's the one that you feed.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Feed the good wolf.
And a lot of people, that's easier said than done for a lot of people. A lot of people just, we're habitual creatures. And so it might be a habit for many people out there to react emotionally, to always focus on the negative. But that's how our brains are wired anyway. So I hope that gives some people a little bit of self-compassion to know that it's not, you're not a terrible person. You've literally been engineered biologically to self-criticize and to look for where the bad spots are. That's just how it is. And you might ask, okay, well then how do you change? It seems like completely different. Like, how do you go against what you feel and the impulse? I don't even think I do. Exactly. Like, that's where mindfulness comes
Correct.
in, so that we are not, people said, how is sitting down, closing my eyes, focusing on my breath supposed to help? And those were the thoughts or the words that came out of my mouth. It's like, I have too much things to do. I don't have 10 minutes. What is this 10 minutes going to do in the long run anyway? But that 5 or 10 minutes over time, like we said, we're habitual creatures. The more the brain starts to understand what it's like to pay attention, that's really all it is to pay attention. The more we practice that, the more that starts to spill into the rest of our everyday life. And maybe next time, rather than being swept by impulse or being reactive, we pay attention. And so it doesn't really take much. And this is what was the starting point that changed my life. And it takes 5 minutes a day, and baby steps over time. Momentum takes care of the rest. So, Marc, how did you start? Basically, like, you came from a place where you're like, I can't do this. I'm not the kind of person that can turn my mind off.
Yeah.
What was the straw that broke the camel's back that said, you know what, I'm just going to start? And usually there's that period of time where it's not working. I should just stop. So what got you? So for anyone who, like, this is what to expect. It's going to be frustrating. Yeah. You're going to be distracted. Don't feel bad if you get distracted. That's actually what's supposed to happen. It's the act of coming back. That's the practice. So what did that process of starting look like for you? And what words of sanity can you give those who may feel like they are losing their sanity during the practice?
Okay, well, right now we're speaking on your platform, which is, predominantly geared, I guess, towards triathletes or athletes in general.
Athletes, anyone looking to be active.
Okay, so then it's very easy, because any one of the people watching this recognize that expertise, that fitness, that doing well in a sport does not come overnight. No one was running like a 42K marathon on their first attempt, like straight out of the box with no running training. It was something that you had to work up to. And it probably wasn't very easy to start with. Any sport that you do for the first time, unless you're an absolute phenom, that you're able to do it brilliantly straight off the bat. But most people will have to work at it. But then similarly, I'm sure there are phenoms in meditation that's just like, oh, sit down, I'll just zen. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about those people.
Right? But most of the people are going to have to work at it a little bit. It is an exercise. It is a mental exercise, just like a physical exercise. Physical exercises get better the more you do it. For instance, when I wanted to do 100 push-ups, I was like, okay, I would like to do 100 push-ups in one go, but I can't. So how do I do it? Okay, well, how many can I do now? All right, I can do 40. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing 40 until it feels comfortable. And then the next week I'm going to do 45. And I'm going to keep doing that until it's comfortable. And then I'm going to do 50, and so on and so forth. Similarly, one of my freediving instructors told me when I got down to a certain depth and I was like, oh, wow, I just did a personal best. I hit 25 meters. That's awesome. But I felt, I think I can do 30. And he's like, no, wait, get comfortable with 25. Own the 25, and then the 30 will be easy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So similarly with meditation, just keep plugging away at it. It will get easier. My other tip is, as I mentioned earlier, is find the one that works for you. Because we're not all going to be triathletes. We're not all going to be star soccer players. We're not all going to hit record freediving, in freediving. So find, much like you find the sport that's right for you, find the meditation that's right for you. Find the one that you find the most enjoyable, and you'll be more inclined to want to do it.
Excellent. That's great. I don't have anything to add to that, apart from, so now that we've found that stillness during lockdown, like you said, this has given us an opportunity of time. It's giving you an opportunity of time to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, regardless, of everything that's happening that is painful, and it is painful, there is opportunity. And so what about when lockdown lifts?
Yeah.
And the busy comes back? Then what? Then there will always be this urge to, because when they open the doors, what's that? We got to move. Everyone else is moving. We got to move. How do we use mindfulness to then be like, okay, I'm going to move, but I'm going to take my time. I'm going to be still. I'm going to be confident in my own pace. I'm not running against everyone else. It's just between me and me. Mm-hmm. So how does mindfulness come into that stage?
Well, there's one, if this whole pandemic and lockdown has a silver lining, is that it has given us all the luxury of time. And this is something that it's been so easy beforehand to, okay, I don't have time, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. But now that we have experienced what it is like to spend time on ourselves and even on our loved ones. I do like the fact that that families are spending more time together. Before, it's like, mom and dad get up, they go to work, the kids go to school, they're stuck in traffic for God knows how long. They come back and maybe they spend an hour or two with their kids before the kid has to go to sleep. And that's it for the week. It's like an hour or two a day. Now, of course, they are spending more time together. Maybe they're driving each other crazy, but they're also learning to love each other and get to know each other a little bit better as well. In the same way that you are also getting to know yourself. Now, if you can find yourself and appreciate the time that you spend with yourself, then you'll see how valuable it is as a tool for life, so that when things do open up again, so to speak, it is easier for us to prioritize finding time for ourselves. And again, it doesn't have to be a whole lot of time. No matter how busy I am, the value of spending 15 or 20 extra minutes in the morning, getting up that 15 or 20 minutes earlier to spend on myself, is more valuable than sleeping in for the extra 20 minutes or much more valuable than staying on social media for an extra 20 minutes the night before.
Yeah.
And similarly, I always thought I was a night owl. I was like, oh yeah, you know, like, yeah, I can't fall asleep, you know, before like 1 a.m. I always sleep somewhere between 1 and 3, and that's when I'm productive and like I answer stuff. Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, I've never been a morning person. Oh God, no. I mean, like I can't my mom gets up early in the morning, but now I've been getting up early in the morning, and oh my God, it's the most beautiful part of the day.
It is.
It's the most beautiful time. And I find myself like, okay, I just go to sleep earlier. And it's so easy to train yourself to do that. It just takes a week of getting up early every morning, and then your body automatically, no matter what time you go to sleep, will wake up at that time.
Habit.
Yeah. So, I mean, any of you that want to try that, try setting an alarm for 6 o'clock and just get up without fail at 6 a.m. every morning for a week. After that, no matter if you go to sleep at 9 p.m. or you go to sleep at midnight, you will still wake up at 6. And it's awesome.
It's great. There's I'm not sure if there's a book by Robin Sharma called The 5 a.m. Club. And that used to be my thing as well. I like to sleep in. I did not wake up before 10 a.m. and that was just me. Those are like we said, the rules that I set. Until all of a sudden, there's no more concerts late at night. And so it was like a challenge. And now it's like, what? Especially when you have, it's like a sacred time in the morning where it's just you and you. And I think so many times the reason why we're so displaced throughout the day, because we don't take the time to connect to our breath, to connect to our bodies, to connect to our awareness, and understand that all these moving parts need to be gelled in unison in order for us. It's like the engine, you know, you got to put the pieces of the engine together in order for it to run properly. We're in this culturescape that focuses so much on the doing, on the task of the things that I need to get done, that we completely disregard or neglect the engine that is operating that task. And if it takes an extra, 1 to 2 hours a day, and you still have to do all of this, like, you know what? Can you imagine if you were able to be truly connected with yourself, with your breath, with your body, and you are working at your optimal state? How well you will do everything else that is on your to-do list, how well you will treat the people around you, how well and how purposeful and wholehearted you'll do everything else, and the sweeter life will be as a result. Just try it out. Like Marc said, set an alarm, just do it. Just try it. What else are you going to lose?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, guys, think about it. Imagine you have a car and it's only running on 3 cylinders, or one of the tires are flat. How fast are you going to get from point A to point B? Your body is that car. If you service it properly, just by spending a little bit of time to make sure that the tires are inflated or something, so to speak, that your brain is running optimally, then you can get from point A to point B, which is you can complete all of those tasks that you need to do much more efficiently if you just spend that extra little bit of time in the morning. It's not a case of like, oh, I can't because I can't afford the time. I need to take this time away so I can do all those things. No, spend that time so that you have to spend less time doing everything else.
You reminded me of this. There's a story of Team Sky, and they're the British national cycling team, and they about 10 years ago the coach that they had brought on wanted to win the Tour de France, and so they've done everything else that any national cycling team would do, the proper training, the aerodynamic bicycles, the everything down to what kind of synthetic material they use, every single thing, and there's nothing more that you can do. So then what the coach did was he did this thing called 1% aggregation of marginal gains, which is working on super minute details that had nothing to do with cycling. They looked at, how can we upgrade the pillow that we're sleeping on? How can we upgrade the the kind of music that we're listening to before bed? How can we integrate some mindfulness? Well, in between different cycling sessions, what if they read a specific book or something that will actually put them in the mindset? So in a sense, essentially, he was finding the different 1% aspects that didn't necessarily have anything to do with cycling, but had to do with refining the system that was operating the actual task. So if we just take that time, like you said, I think we underestimate what we're capable of, because we've been so used to being okay with whatever it is. Oh, that's good enough.
Yeah.
What's what we have, it's not actually good enough, not until you reach that, that level up. And I promise, this practice, like Marc's saying, will give you that 1%, and maybe even much more. I'm pretty sure much more. So Marc, would you like to close with something powerful, something meaningful to you, how this practice really resonates with you, and how you believe that this is something that is not only an opportunity for people to get to know themselves better, but for them to be able to connect with others more during this time?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's exactly the point that I wanted to make, that I think that through the journey of mindfulness, you get to know not just yourself better, but you also understand that we are all somehow interconnected. I spoke earlier of being the fly on the wall, being able to take yourself out of yourself so that you can recognize how your actions affect the people around you. Now, your actions can affect people around you in a negative way, or they can affect them in a positive way. I've always said that whenever I travel, that the best thing that you can pack is a smile, because it can open so many doors, it can change so many people's lives. If something as simple as a smile, as just like operating some muscles to do this, can affect people in such a great way, imagine if everyone was doing it. How do you feel when someone smiles at you? Makes you feel a little bit good. Does it cost anything? No. Is it a lot of effort? No. But you see that so many small incremental things that we can do, either to ourselves, make ourselves smile, think great things about ourselves, but also how we can project it onto other people and recognize that there is a follow-on effect. If I'm happier and I try and make you happier, then you're more likely to be happy, and you want to make the next person happier. Then you will notice that just generally more and more people around you will be more uplifted. So there is so much power and positivity. It's such a shame that these days there is so much negativity. And I would like very much for everyone to be a little bit mindful of themselves, how they treat and speak to themselves, how they treat and speak others, because I would really like this positivity to grow and for all of us to benefit.
Excellent. That's perfect. I couldn't think of a better way to close. So practicing mindfulness, not only to allow us to get through this time, but actually it's a superpower for us to be able to contribute to those around us, who will continue to contribute to those around them. And at the end of the day, we're actually going to come out of this thriving, not just surviving. Marc, thank you so much for taking the time. Have a beautiful weekend. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed weekend. Be blessed and be a blessing. Take care. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.